as you kind of pass through January, you're getting closer to April, you start hearing all kind of screaming and yelling and hollering. There's all kind of pain because all the flips and wholesaling and everything they did, it creates what?
Wealth.
It creates taxes, right?
Yeah, that too.
And so everyone's like, oh my gosh, I'm just losing all this money to the government in taxes. So what we want to do is kind of find a way to do a win-win. What if the government that kind of squeezes us every year, what if they can fund our deal? What if they can do that? We're going to talk about some of the reasons why a lot of real estate investors haven't even started using government funding. But what's coming out next year? What's the big event next year, everybody? The next big thing in the government next year. The election. Yeah, that's right. So as we're thinking about the election, we've had a lot of people, a lot of my clients, just a lot of stuff on social media about the market and the stock market, real estate market. Because in 08-09, as so many of you know, 08-09, which one of these markets tanked? The stock market, bond market, or real estate market? Which
all.
One? Trick question, right?
All.
They all tanked, okay? And so, you know, we had a big dip this past December, and, you know, the stock market is higher than it's ever been, and we're kind of 2 years behind on a true correction or a crash, whatever you want to call it. I jokingly say, saying that, you've heard me say this before, that a correction, that's what they call it when you're ready for it. It's called a crash when you're not ready for it, right? So, but we've had a lot of people asking us, what can I do? I've got money in the stock market, I got a 401k, I've got money here and there, what should we do? How should I be thinking about the election? So I'm going to ask Drive Planning CEO. He's, you know, we started Level Up about a year and a couple months ago, and I'm going to just ask Todd a couple questions as we think about the government and its impact on your wealth. What are you seeing in the market right now? We're getting a lot of people asking us this all the time, right?
Yes, yeah. That is one of the most common questions that we get is what is going on with the market? How do I avoid the pitfall that everybody talks about, which was 08, 09, that whole range? And believe it or not, there are people who avoided that. There are ways to do it. And so the thing that we've been promoting, and it's not a new theme for us, this is not anything that we're just thought of or just come up. This is a tenet of our whole practice, is that you have to move, and our belief is you have to move towards contractual wealth as opposed to statement wealth. 99.9% of Americans have statement wealth. They get a statement in the mail and they look at it and they're either really happy or really sad. Yet they had zero impact or control over how those numbers became what they are. And so if we can make that shift to contractual wealth, and I have a belief that that's one of the reasons why you come to events like this.
That's what real estate
That's
investors
what real estate is. It's a contractual relationship. There are other ones though. And so maybe if you're here today and you hear things, and maybe this isn't your thing, or you want to do something maybe even outside of the scope of real estate, there are other opportunities out there that are contractual wealth that will protect you regardless of what the stock market does, the bond market does, or even the real estate market does. There are ways to do it. And one of the things that David and I were talking about before this was how do we position ourselves? How do we do that? Sorry, I'm not train of thought. We were talking about it earlier of when you position yourself with contractual wealth, you can withstand those bumps, you can withstand those ups and downs. And one of the things that we discussed was do things that the government either promotes, supports, or even financially backs, or more mandates.
Yeah.
And so, you know, how many of you in the room have auto insurance? Everybody here. Wow, shocker that everybody has auto insurance because everybody is mandated. You have to have it. How many of you have homeowners insurance on a home that has a mortgage on it? Yeah, it's a have to. And so there are other investment opportunities that exist out in the world that are mandated by the government that pay a really nice rate of return, double-digit rate of return, that is mandated by the government. And some of them are even, like you'll hear today, are even funded by the government. environment. And so supported either through tax credits or funding, and regardless of what you think of what side of the aisle you fall on, I don't care. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Independent, Tea Party. I don't care what party you're with, that there are a few things that align with all sides of the aisle. Some things fall in the middle of the aisle. And so do those things that exist regardless.
I was gonna, who has seen a few years ago the Nissan Leaf? You remember all the Leafs that were driving around? The Nissan Leafs. The carbon impact on our environment. Now they might say that was an advantage. The reason they had it was because they were free, folks. They were free. That if you leased a Leaf, with all the government gave you a reduction in the price. If you leased it, there was a tax credit from Georgia. And so basically you can own that car for free, zero maintenance, because it didn't have an engine, didn't have oil, and so forth. That's why you saw the Leafs. You know why you don't see them anymore? No more tax credit, right? No more tax credit. Now people, they weren't buying it because there was of an environmental thing. They're ugly. They've actually made them look a little bit nicer. But that is why. And so that's the whole idea of the government getting behind things. And but before we talk about, and again, this is not, we want to tie in the government to where you're at because it's so important in what we're talking about. But I wanted to ask Todd just briefly, what are you seeing in the stock market and so forth? And what should people be thinking about as we go into December? Because last December was scary. As we go into election time, and if they have money in the stock market, what should they be thinking about?
Every year leading into an election, there is volatility. The market hates uncertainty. And it's weird because somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose every single time. And we all keep existing regardless of who wins or who loses. It's amazing. But yet, markets fluctuate and become radically volatile leading into elections. And when things are as tenuous and tense and everybody's hyper on edge as they are right now in the world of politics, that becomes just radically exacerbated. It's so much more prevalent. And so there are things that you can do in the stock market to protect yourself from those losses where even if the market goes down, you can win. Even if the market goes down, you can still make money. Most people have no concept of how that works or why it works the way it works. So you have to have a professional person that does that for a living. This is not something that you can learn late night television.
Fidelity's not going to do this for you.
Right. We had a client just the other day. He says, "Well, I'm not worried about that because it's my retirement plan." I was like, that's the dumbest statement I've ever heard. And so, if you can avoid this big dip, is it likely when the market recovers, you'll be radically higher? Of course. But yet, he had no concept of time value of money or of avoidance and so forth. People, my entire career, I've been doing this for 23 years now, and people say, well, I'm in it for the long haul. Well, in the long haul, you're all going to be dead. And so you can't go in it for the long haul. There's still a lot of living that has to be done between now and whenever the long haul starts. And so take action. Don't just sit back, put your head in the sand, and let it just be a thing that happens to you. There are moves to make. Get with somebody that knows how to do it, whether it's somebody you know, whether it's somebody on this stage, but outside of you can make your statement wealth, contractual wealth, just by doing nothing else than a few simple moves of puts, calls, and options and different things that protect you. And yet, nobody ever talks about it because it's work, and most people don't like work. Most people, it takes time away from their Netflix, it takes time away from doing the other things that they would rather do. So they just sit back and take it. Don't just sit back and take it.
Okay, thanks. Let's give him a hand. So I'm just going to let the panelists introduce themselves and their background. Thanks for coming out. By the way, who would like to lend money to a company that has to fulfill government mandates and get 12% a year? Who'd be interested in something like that? Guaranteed 12% a year. Okay? If you have money you're setting aside for taxes, How many months we got till April, Todd? What is it? 6, 7? I don't know. What if you take your tax money that you got to send to the government and get 6% on it before you have to send it? Who'd be interested in that? Guaranteed 6%. That's something that we help our clients with. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that as well. You don't have to be a full client for us to do that. So we're gonna get started about how you can find a way for the government to fund your deal. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. Birthday tomorrow.
Birthday boy, happy birthday.
Thank you, guys. Well, how's everyone doing today?
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. We love looking through the crowd and seeing a lot of familiar faces. Guys, my name is Kenneth Igwe. I'm Baker Collins. We are very simply a private lending group. We lend money.
And we all know that the federal government is literally the world's, if you don't know, questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. The other part of the square. Those who don't know me, I'm Amy Ramsdell. I am a broker of a small real estate firm here in Atlanta that specializes mostly in investment real estate. Or let me clarify and say we are a powerhouse of retail real estate agents who also have a true passion for investing.
Professionals, if you own a real estate agency, a brokerage firm, any of those things, and you are a C Corp or S Corp or LLC, then you can compete for contracting opportunities. And I'm going to give you an example. So the federal government right now government will put out what's called a request for proposal, right? They're looking for businesses. Let me just say this, the federal government does not buy, they don't make anything. Right? Nothing. They make nothing. They just buy, right? Whether it's a product or whether it's a service or whether you are a paperclip provider, whether you wash windows or you're a janitor or you're in construction, what if you sell paper? You know, there's literally millions and millions of dollars where the government will put out these requests for proposals and you just have to respond to those requests.
So this is sounding a lot like when my kids were going to college. You have all of these scholarships that all of these groups have all over the place, you know, from private groups and everything else. And sometimes they don't even get funded because people don't know about them. They don't get applications.
Right.
So it's just kind of they're sitting there waiting for you to apply.
Yeah. So right, and so what happens is, so there's a law that says 23% of all vending opportunities have to go to small businesses. It's a law, federal law, 23%. So, but less than 1% compete in the marketplace. That's really insane, right? So if you're trying to grow your business and you are out there competing in traditional methods with all of your other competitors, does that make a whole lot of sense? Why not compete in an area that less than 1%? Why not compete in an area where less than 1% of your competition plays? And so it's really just about educating yourself and understanding that there's tons of opportunities in that space and getting the help so that you're not navigating that space by yourself.
So if there was someone here that had a real estate investing company and they said, okay, you know, I went to Level Up, I heard, you know, I could do a class on how to buy a home and, you know, how to locate one and all of that, how would that tie into getting government money? Would the government pay them to do that? Would they sponsor that? Help us understand that.
Okay, so there's two ways to get paid by the federal government. So if you are a for-profit, then you are answering the request for proposal with your pricing, and you are being awarded that contract, right? It could be a one-shot project. It could be a multi-year project. So that's one way. If you're for-profit, that's called, you know, you're winning that contract. You've got to do some work in order to get the money, right? If you are a non-profit, then it's called a grant. Same thing, you've got to do something in order to get the money. But the opportunities are vast, and you just have to answer those requests for proposal. There's some other things you've got to do, and we have workshops monthly for that, where people can come and we teach workshops, people literally all over the country attend our workshops where we actually get them registered in the federal database, help them get set up so they can see what those opportunities are in the federal space, and so they can start competing for those opportunities. And there's a little more to it, but that's covered in the workshop. And when you start getting interested in that, then you just seek the help for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got a question for Amy. It's Reese. Amy Square. A lot of individuals are really intimidated by federal contracting, government contracting, because they hear all the challenges and all the, I guess, things that they have to go through. A lot of paperwork, what I've been told. What are some of the myths that you can dispel right now about government contracting and why someone would want to start the process, even if they have all the challenges that they do? And that's one question. I've got a couple of questions also.
So the first thing is, I will say this, it's not as cumbersome as it used to be, okay? The federal government, they are really doing a great job, if I can say that in the same sentence, federal government, a great job. But anyway, they're really doing a pretty decent job at combining their databases. So that it's easier. So there are databases that you can go on where you search. If you've got to be registered, so that's kind of where we come in, right? So we get you set up and all that stuff, but you can go in and you can get these alerts and you search for the opportunities. It'll ding you actually and tell you there are some opportunities that's just been posted this week or today or whatever, right? That's literally. And then you can go into the database if you're registered, and there's a lot simpler now where there's just a literal form that you download and you input your pricing, how you want to respond to that. So it's a lot better than what it used to be, but it is. I think that is definitely one of those things that people think that is just so hard and so cumbersome. And it really, you've got to look at it, really try to from a more simplistic lens in terms of teaming up. Another thing that you said was, or I think maybe you mentioned, it reminds you of like all the scholarships that go unanswered. Well, the federal government is going to get what they need, right? They are. So if they need pencils, they're going to get them. So what happens is those larger companies end up taking those opportunities. Or the same small businesses who have taken the time to understand the system really work the system. I've got some clients that's like, has won 15 contracts just in 2018 alone. So that's just doing some work. It's a little different work, but you're working anyway, right? So, yeah.
So one of the things that, I used to be a pastor. I was a pastor for 10 years and had to go through a really difficult thing in my marriage and so forth. And anyway, God called me to Atlanta, ended up going into financial services, been doing it going on 5 years. And the cool thing I've noticed about wealth is, if you're going to grow wealth, you're going to deal with paperwork, right? There is no way. Wealthy people know there's going to be paperwork. So if you're saying, oh, there's a paperwork, it's just too much, you're in the wrong, you've got to get over that, okay? And you can hire people to help you with the paperwork, but it sounds to me like it's getting more digitized, it's getting easier to access. We definitely, while we're talking about it, do you have some workshops on your calendar right now that you can tell people about? Because I'm sure they'd like to know about that.
Yeah, so, and I was going to say, because it's one of my passions, I talked about 1%, right? Less than 1% of small businesses compete in this space. So our ARC's tagline is shatter the 1%, because it's our goal. For the past 4 years, we launched August 4 years ago, right? So our tagline and our mission has been to shatter the 1%. We want to increase that number. And so we have these workshops. We do have one coming up at the end of this month. And literally, so what it is, and one of the things that we have learned is that a lot of small businesses, they really they're not set up even with the foundational stuff correctly. So we kind of go back and well, in order for you to go through our workshop, you have to have your LLC completed. That is at the very least you've got to have done. But how many of you know what a capability statement is? Raise your hand high if you do. That's not everybody. How many business owners are in here? Okay, see? So if just a few of you all raise your hand that you even know what a capability statement is, if you were out there looking for a job, would you go out there without your resume? That's what a cap statement is. It's your business's resume. And so we start with that. Our workshop is 4 hours. We talk to you about what that is. We help you identify your industry codes. How many of you understand that there are industry codes that you, whatever product or service you sell, you need to know your industry codes, your NAICS codes, NAICS codes, Amy Square, yeah, girl. Hey. So we covered those things. And so in our workshop, we help you, when you finish, you're gonna know all of your industry codes. You're going to know what your capability statement should look like. We're going to have written your capabilities narrative with you. So it's not just an info session, it is a working workshop. And then at the end of that workshop, about 45 to 60 days after, we actually complete your federal registration for you. But before you finish the workshop, we have you set up in the bidding system already, so that you'll be getting those alerts and those bid opportunities even before your registration is completed. So every month.
So this is a true boot camp, like in the truest sense. You walk in, you're not in shape, you walk out, you're in shape, and you're ready to start doing government contracts.
You're well on your way. So one of the things,
Where can I register for that?
so what you would do is you go, the date is, it's the last Saturday of this month. So forgive me, I don't know the exact date. The last Saturday of this month. It's usually from 10 until 2. And so to answer your question, it is getting you, if you're out of shape, you don't just get in shape at the end of one boot camp, do you? So there's work to be done. So the workshop is the beginning of the work. And then we give you more work to do. So while we're working on your federal registration and getting you set up, by the end of that workshop, you've got some action items you have to complete so that you can be well on your way. And then we don't stop there. We continue to assist you throughout the process. We have partners and we have additional workshops to get you on your way, so we don't leave you by yourself.
Great. Okay, awesome. And what website can they go to register for that?
So it's arcanswers.com, arcanswers.com. And if you scroll down, you'll see on the first page is under events, and it's the Federal Registration Certification Workshop at the end of September.
Okay, Amy, I think you said you had something to say or ask a question.
Well, actually, 2 things to quickly say. One is that those of you who have worked with coaches in the real estate industry or any kind of entrepreneurial coach, putting together that package is huge for your business, regardless of whether you're going to go apply for grants, okay? You couldn't be more well-armed and more well-prepared to go raise money in any capacity than to have all of that put together. So I would take the workshop regardless of whether you pursued any grant funding. I want to speak to the grant funding side, that I actually have a case study friend of mine who did learn about this, and he is actually playing in the space of being a veteran-owned business on top of it. And so he supplies medical supplies as a third-party intermediary vendor, as a veteran-owned business, because the government has to buy syringes, for example, and they have to buy a certain percentage from a small business, and they have to buy a certain percentage from a veteran-owned business. And so he's able to go in and he's able to buy syringes, for example, for pennies, and turn around and offer them at a bid price a little bit higher to make the spread. He's not making any syringes, right? Okay. He's just the middleman, and so he has a fully functioning business earning well over 6 figures per year. He's doing nothing. He doesn't even touch it. He has hired a person in his office that watches the alerts every day, and he simply makes those offers, responds to the report, to the requests. If he wins one, great. They go buy them, they sell them, they're good, right? And he found out about this by accident out to dinner one night. Heard somebody else talking about it, and he goes, I gotta find out what that is. Okay, so he had another passive income stream, if you will. I had a question about affordable housing. So one of the biggest, obviously, conversations happening in the Atlanta market is the need for some of these neighborhoods to, for some of it to be turned into affordable housing. So we don't run into a San Francisco issue with inside the perimeter, which we're headed there fast, right? How does that work? Is it often that you see something opening up for a real estate investor to come and get funding to build affordable housing?
Yeah, thanks. Good question. So yes, remember I said we help those compete in the federal and the corporate marketplace, right? And we also work with veterans, by the way. You're absolutely right. There are set-asides for veteran, women, minorities, right? And so the answer is yes, there are opportunities in that space in the agency. What you've got to do is you've got to follow the agencies. And I blog about this stuff. If you're on my website, if you go into our blog and you scroll all the way down, maybe like 2 years ago or something like that, you'll see blogs talking about the different federal agencies and their initiatives. You literally can click on those hyperlinks and you can kind of study those agencies, what their federal budget looks like, and what kind of initiatives that they have going on. So there are definitely opportunities for developers. I have a client, I'm actually headed over there now. I don't know if you all are familiar with Quest Development. Quest, okay, so that's Leonard Adams is my client, just completed his veteran certification, and he's now launching, actually, so there's Quest, which is a nonprofit, but I also helped him to launch Legacy Real Estate Partners. So he's going to be specializing in affordable housing in not only Atlanta, but some of the other metropolitan cities. He's going to be working closely with some of the federal agencies for that, as well as some of the other state and local level agencies.
So, you know, we read the news and we read the paper and we hear about all these stories about someone acquiring or getting a $15 million or $20 million government contract. And you know, I've been scratching my head for years as to how to get one of those $15 million or $20 million government contracts. Can you share with us a couple of success stories that you've gone through, well, some of your students have gone through the boot camp? Because I know some investors here are just starting out, some are very experienced, but obviously they want to hear you as well.
I love talking about the success stories. So I'm going to share two. One is a young lady who's in her mid-30s, I think, single mom, two children, 2 little girls. We started working with her, and when we first started working with her, she was one person in her assistant, her company. She was going after contracts with the CDC, and actually she had some contracts. She was working through another provider with the CDC. So she was already working with the CDC, her organization, but she was working with them as a third party. And so when she learned about the opportunities to be a woman-owned, certified woman-owned small business competing in that space, what she did was she was able to take her past performance with that organization that she was a third party. She really worked the process, and it is work. There's homework, there's stuff we give you to do that you have to do. And I can't tell you, we do have some people who attend our workshops and they don't do the work, and I get frustrated because there's so much. I'm like, why did you attend? So, but she was one who literally, she did the work. Let's say that was April. She had herself and her assistant. Fast forward 1 year later, she had 27 employees and had an $11 million contract with the CDC that she had won herself as a woman-owned small business. So that's one. And then more recently is a gentleman that I was working with who's a veteran. And we just started about a year ago doing veteran certifications also, because when we first launched, we were doing primarily women-owned, economically disadvantaged women-owned, hub zones, a lot of the other federal contracts, but we weren't doing a lot of veteran contracts. And so we started working and we kind of hashed out the program for that particular workshop and that service. And so he came through, was him and 2 others who came through our pilot program for our veteran certification. And he did all the work. I mean, this gentleman, he's an electrical company. He's in Macon, Warner Robins area, which is where I grew up. But he was up here all the time attending events. He was at the PTAC, which is like procurement office at Georgia State. I mean, there's so many resources that we kind of point you to help you in the process. Long story short, he did all the work, and in 8 months, he had won his first contract. That was about, I think it was a little bit over $300,000. It wasn't $1 million yet, but his first contract, and he had never done business with the federal government ever, so he didn't even have any past performance. He just made the connections and did the work and got his first contract.
So who here would be willing to do 8 months of work for $300,000? Anyone? Yeah. When someone gets a contract like that, $300,000, what does that mean? What would they net from that? I mean, that's one thing I would like to.
So it's going to depend on how you price out, and we kind of teach you that. So that's like on the back end of our workshops where we have support. We have partners who walk you through how to price, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to low bid and then you don't make any profit, right? So you've got to make sure that you build your profit margin in. You've got to make sure that you account for everything. If it's going to cost you 10 paper clips, if you're going to use gas to get across town, whatever. But see, if you're just kind of doing it blindly and you don't know what you're doing, then that's kind of where you can get burned. So it really varies. On a $300,000 contract, it varies how much you actually walk away with. But I will tell you that that is a very low figure for the federal government. $300,000 is like nothing to them. Like it's $1 million contract is nothing to the federal government. When you're talking, they deal with in the trillions. So you can get up to $150,000 contract without even bidding. It's just you just make the connection with the procurement officer. You have a product or service that they need. You connect with them, and they just give you that contract. They don't even have to post it. They don't even have to open up for bidding.
It's a lot of information. Go to the workshop. So in our world, private lending world, there are certain things that people need to do to qualify for us to lend money to them. We look at experience. We'll look at a couple of factors. What does one need to do to pre-qualify, if that's even a word to be used in your world, to start getting a bid or start to, I guess, be awarded a contract?
So you have to have your state corporation papers in order. You have to be a U.S. citizen, and you have to have, in some cases, you have to have an operating agreement. If you don't have an operating agreement, most of our clients, unfortunately, don't. So we help you with that. There are some links that we provided, some resources that they can put your operating agreement together for free. Or you can use an attorney, just depending on how complex your organization is. You don't have to be in business for any particular length of time. You just have to you need your EIN number. And even if you don't have your Dun & Bradstreet number, how many of you business owners have a Dun & Bradstreet number? You should all have your Dun & Bradstreet number, but if you don't, if you sign up for the workshop, we expedite that. So if you don't have one, it normally would take months. We can have it, after you sign up, you can have your Dun & Bradstreet number. That's included in the cost of the workshop in 3 days. But that's it. Your EIN, registered with the state, and your Dun & Bradstreet number, and we're good to go.
Well, that sounds fantastic. I mean, you're going to have a lot of people signing up for this workshop. So how much is the workshop?
So if you just want the federal registration, I think it's $697, which includes the 4-hour workshop. And again, we deliver your registration for you about 45 to 60 days after. If you need to be certified, if you're a woman in particular, then that's $797 for the Women-Owned Small Business Certification. And veteran is a designation. I think that's the same. It's $797 for the workshop and the certification or registration included.
Wow, so if you're a woman, you get the opposite of a discount. Okay, great. So, it's one of the things you mentioned about having your paperwork in order and stuff. So many times when I sit down with a real estate investor, we're just having a conversation. I do what I call as financial GPS. It's kind of where are they at and where are they trying to go. And I usually spend about an hour with someone just trying to figure out what they're doing and what they're trying to do with their money. And so often, that's free by the way, but so often what I find after I do some evaluation and some questions is people will create an LLC because they're told, hey, I can go on the website, I can do it myself, DIY, that's what so many of us entrepreneurs are, and they've created an LLC. I say, is it taxes and S Corp? They're like, oh, it's not an S Corp, it's an LLC. I'm like, yeah, it's a taxes and S Corp. I don't even know what you're talking about. So I don't even have to ask them after that question, do you have an operating agreement? And so it's what I call a folder without anything in it, right? And if you are a business and you are doing deals, sooner or later it's going to come back to get you. You're telling yourself you have an LLC, but you have a folder without anything in it. And that's something, folks, if you want to win at wealth and you want to win at the tax game and everything else, these are things you need to get done right the first time. And if that's you, if you just had, hey, I did it myself, I don't have an operating agreement, I don't have any of this and that, we're partners, and I hope we set it up the right way, Maybe you haven't even paid for it, renewed it from 1 year to the next. That's not too uncommon either. People set up a business, they won't even renew it. I mean, they don't have a business. So all those kind of things are really important. And that's just the first step. And it's just, I mean, that's so much value to go into a new market, to open up a new chapter of opportunities for less than $1,000. That's ridiculous. I think it's a great value. What are the questions? Did y'all have some questions for Amy?
So, can you talk, well, number one, can you give us a definition of prime contractors and what's the other one? Subcontractors. And can you show or share with the crowd how a small business can partner up with a much larger business to get a very large contract? I'm pretty sure you have some examples of that.
Another great question. So yes, we call it teaming, right? And so a prime is the organization or the company that actually won the contract. So one of the things that we talk about in our workshop is partnering with those companies, those organizations that has already won in your space. If they've already won something that you want to win, then there are ways for you to connect with them. It's all public information. There are databases, and we cover all of that in the workshop. But you can connect with them, and you can introduce yourself, and you're set aside. I have a client right now that I'm working with. It's a uniform company, much like the syringe story. They don't make uniforms, military uniforms. And the reason why they got into the business is because the federal government, for all military uniforms, for the 4 branches of the military, they are redoing their uniforms. And it is a mega project. And there's not a lot of uniform manufacturers that's in the U.S. because that's one of the requirements. If they're purchasing a uniform, the federal government is purchasing something from you, you've got to be a U.S.-based company. And so there's only a handful. This client of mine, they learned about this opportunity like a year or so ago, started partnering with with manufacturing companies, and has literally made friends with the manufacturing company that wins about 75% of contracting opportunities in that space. They've won about 20-something contracts just in 2018, totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. And what they did was they contacted them, set up a meeting. They are woman-owned, and now they are able, whereas that prime was not woman-owned. Right? It was not veteran-owned, no set-asides, but they're winning contracts just because they're one of the few in the space. And so now they have partnered with this manufacturing company. They don't make the uniforms, but now they can compete for those uniform proposals that go out that set aside just for women. And so that's what you call teaming, and that's what's called subcontracting. So it's kind of the inverse though, right? Because what's going to happen is, as they win those contracts that's just for women in the military uniform space, the American Apparel, which is the uniform company that's usually the prime, will be the subcontractor. Because the prime is going to be the woman-owned small business. But typically it is where, there's these large companies that compete, and by law, if you are a subcontractor and your contract value is over a certain amount, and it depends on the industry, by law you have to subcontract out to women and veterans. And if you do not, then you're fined. So that's a whole nother area of opportunity for those in those set-aside categories to team up and to be a subcontractor under those large projects.
So a question I have is, we're all sitting here, you're probably thinking the same thing I'm like, okay, syringes, uniforms, Zana's sitting there thinking I'm not a woman, so like, how does this fit? So where do these two things converge? Getting government contracts to do real estate investing. Let's talk about that in particular, because I think you've made us aware that we can go to this workshop. I think that's everyone's action point, right? Are you honestly going to go online and try to research this stuff and try to figure this out without a coach? I mean, that makes no sense. We'll get to questions in a minute. But where's the intersection of, all right, I'm a real estate investor. I came here to level up because David's a bad, no, he's so cool. No, you came here to learn about how you can get government money to do your deal, and your deals aren't in syringes or in uniforms, and some of you aren't women. How do we bring those together as real estate investors? We need to make this very concrete and simple. Maybe give some examples of someone who is, hey, this person was a flipper and they heard about this, they tweaked their company to focus on this particular need the government wanted to meet. I know there's a lot of people in here that could do a seminar and train people or meet, do a thing for veterans or something like that. Can you flesh that out for us a little bit?
So I'm going to go back to the example that I gave earlier about the ending homelessness amongst vets or the housing initiative. And I'll give a couple of examples. So, of course, we know that the federal government, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, right? So literally, they again have projects out there and initiatives where they are developing property for various initiatives, whether it's homelessness or whether it's vets, whether it's just a homeless population in a certain city or what have you, low income, all of that. So you've got that as an avenue. We've talked about the seminars. I also want to share with you, for those of you who are in real estate, I have a client who it's property management, and they were looking to grow. And my background, I spent 23 years in corporate America. And I've never done what's called B2C. I've never done B2C. I've always done B2B or B2G, like ever. And so when I started working with them, I had to try to wrap my head around how am I going to help them, because I don't do B2C. Like, I believe in going for the gusto and not, the onesie twosies. I just don't, So I had to figure out how I could help her. And so what I learned, she was in property management. And after doing a little bit more research with her, we learned about receivership. How many of you have ever heard of receivership? Well, it's property management in bulk, right? So you've got foreclosure, companies, mortgage companies who foreclose. You've got banks who foreclose. Guess what? Wells Fargo has a diversity and procurement initiative, meaning that just like the federal government, they are looking to do business with a certain percentage of small businesses, right? If you're a woman, if you're a minority, or even if you're just a small business, you don't have to be either one of those. They have initiatives to do business with other small businesses. And so she won some opportunities through Wells Fargo and Bank of America to do bulk property management with those companies. And so that's one example. Again, that's on the corporate side. So you've got the federal and you've got the corporate side. I think the main thing is really just trying to broaden your thought process when it comes to all the things that you do in because you work just as hard for the onesie twosies as you would for the bulk opportunities. And so if you can just level up a little bit and start thinking more grand in terms of how you can go about growing and competing in those untraditional marketplaces, then I think you'll see a big difference. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Good example.
Amy, do you have a question?
I just had maybe a question or a case study, another one. So I have a friend in the North Carolina market, and now they've branched out as franchises in other markets, but it's a veteran program where they supply housing to veterans. It's all grant-backed, everything. So they get the house for free, they get all of the materials for free, they're putting all the work in and they're placing the veteran. And it's a nonprofit that they've created, but they have placed hundreds of veterans at this point, and now they have chapters that they've set up in additional states. But I think it came through something similar to what you're talking about. Does that sound like something you know about?
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to be in Chicago in a few weeks because there's a program that's with HUD that, and it escapes me the actual project, but literally it is for veterans. It's for people, veteran and also the underserved. So like the, financially challenged or what have you. But what we're going to be doing is bringing that back here to Atlanta. The client that I spoke about, who's Quest Community Development, that's what they do. They're a nonprofit, and they get all of these grants from governmental agencies. We're going after grant opportunities, of course, with HUD, because we're going to be up in Chicago looking at that as an option, as a kind of a blueprint for what we're going to be doing here in Atlanta. But then also there's just a ton of other federal agencies that have all kinds of opportunities in that space. The veterans, we're talking veterans, the Veterans Administration, we haven't even talked about them and what all the different initiatives. But yeah, I mean, you can literally, it's money given to you for a particular initiative. Of course, you agree, you got to do the work. So whatever the initiative is, it's got to be done. So if it's building housing or whatever it is, I have a client who goes into the FDA. She's had this contract for 2 years now. She goes into the FDA right off of Camp Creek, and she teaches a time management seminar once a month. That's what she does. She's business development person, organizational development is her specialty, a coach, a business coach, and she has that contract. I think it was a 3 or 4 year contract that she won through FDA in learning and development to just, help the employees with their time management skills.
I want to add, and maybe for the room, the gentleman that I mentioned with the veterans thing. So the houses are actually being supplied to him for free from a local government level agency. So they're actually giving him the houses saying, please take these and please renovate them. And then they on other grant initiatives is what's paying for all of the materials. And then there's other grant initiatives that he's using that are covering the subcontractors, right? So he's just basically managing the entire process. And in the end, the master program is above all of this, is who's supplying him the veteran that they're doing it all for. So it's just really truly worth doing the digging. But I know he had a good long time put into the building the chapter or the charters for that. But really powerful.
I mean, and if your heart really is to help your community, I mean, definitely going after those opportunities from a grant perspective is really important. And you'd be surprised at how much help you will get. I mean, just the example, Amy, that you gave, I know that to be true. Even though I don't know that your personal story about that, I know that there are organizations, they are literally giving away, they need the hands. They need the people to help them with these initiatives. And it just takes someone that's willing to do the work. And that's on the nonprofit side. And on the for-profit side, there's obviously plenty of opportunity as well. So no matter what space you choose to play in, there's just a lot of opportunity.
A couple questions. Does it give you any advantage if you've won a contract to get it re-upped again? Is that, and then the second thing is, what are some of the common mistakes? I mean, we talked about some of the myths. What are some of the common mistakes people make? They get a contract, they don't do the work, or whatever it might be. Walk us through maybe 3 or 4 of those. But does it give you an advantage to renew that contract? Is it kind of a easy path to that?
Yes. So once you win, you are known in the federal space. Once you get that first contract, you do a great job. You become their go-to. Remember, less than 1% compete, right? So you become a part of that small database that those procurement officers, when they put out those opportunities, you did a great job, they're gonna come looking for you. So that's that one question. And then the other that you asked about, I think you said something about 3 or 4 mistakes. Let me tell you a mistake. So I can tell you a few of them, but one of the mistakes that I really counsel. Yeah, definitely. So there's a young lady. I'm in a group on Facebook, and it's a contracting group. It's really small business owners, but she posted in the group that she had went after a contract and she didn't think she would win. She didn't think she would win the contract, but she won the contract. But it required her to have this piece of equipment that she said she had. And I don't know, maybe let's say $50,000 or something like that. And so she had received notification that she won the contract, but she didn't have the equipment. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? Because now she's gotta provide this documentation and some stuff, right? In order to get the ball rolling. And so long story short, we were able to help her find the financiers, because once you get the documentation that shows you won a contract, then you can get factoring, and there are some other options that you have out there now. There's a Now account that is pretty popular, where literally you they take your invoices and then they pay directly your employees or for equipment or what have you. But that's a big mistake, not really being prepared and saying you are. And another example is, let's just take this as an example, and this is also a true story. You're a janitorial company. You are, say, 5 to 10 people, right, in your company, so you're really small, but you want a contract for the federal building downtown, which is several stories and will require several people to do the work. Well, one thing about it is the federal government, they don't pay you right away. It's net 60, a lot of times it's net 90, but they expect you to start the work. But you gotta hire people because you can't, you're 5 or 10 people. Right, then you catch up. So that could potentially happen if you don't have the financial resources to hire the people. You can't send your cousins up in there, you know what I mean? And then they mess up and then they do a terrible job and now you've messed up your reputation in that space. So it's really preparing. So making sure that you have the proper staff, making sure you have the financial resources to float you until you actually get paid is really going to be important. And that's how you keep your reputation in the federal space, and then you're able to continue to win those contracts.
Do you ever see, I'd love to hear some more things to avoid as well, but do you ever see people winning a contract and then going maybe to a bank or something like that and saying, hey, I've got this contract, I need a loan? I would think that would be a pretty good, solid, low risk.
Yeah. The answer is yes. Okay. Once you get that official notification that you won this contract, that's as good as money. So even if you don't have the resources, you can get the resources. But again, it's just about educating yourself and not panicking. So even the young lady who was in the group who was like, because her question was, oh my God, do I give this back? And we were like, no, are you crazy? You won the contract. I didn't think I was gonna win. No, you better go find the equipment. You better go buy it. But she had to be taught how to do that. She had to be coached on how to do that. She didn't know. But yeah, once you win a contract and you have that official notification, it's as good as gold.
Okay, Kenneth, let's talk about that. Where you get your contract and then you get a bigger account. So, what are your thoughts about that?
If I can verify the contract, I'll do it all day. And the contract is essentially accounts receivable. I would love to see a document from the federal government showing that this person is wanted. That would make us feel very, very good, and we would be very, very committed to getting that deal done for that person.
Okay, we're going to open this up to questions. I think we had some questions. Who has a question? Raise your hand. Okay. I saw, there was a lady over here. Oh my goodness, did she give you the question?
No.
All right, what question do you have?
My question is on purchasing property. So I know you talked about property management opportunities out there, but there's actual grants where the government will fund houses for you, or do you already have to have the houses in place, like for instance for housing veterans, for instance?
Okay, let me take that to Amy's and Ken.
So it's both. I mean, there are opportunities for rehabilitation, like rehab programs that literally is posted, like literally rehab. Sometimes it falls under general construction or what have you, but those opportunities. And then also, I think your other question was about purchasing homes. It depends on what department or agency you're working under or you're trying to go after. But a lot of times it would depend on the area of town. Where is it located? If it's in one of those areas where there's some initiatives going on, low income and things like that, then that would count, and that would matter in terms of purchasing, getting that assistance to purchase.
Okay, some more questions. Yes, ma'am.
As a real estate investor, I know you talked about nonprofit and for-profit. How should we register ourselves in order to get the bid? Is it better to be for-profit or nonprofit?
We don't want to ask that question.
I think, is. I mean, it really depends on your heart, right? Like, what do you want? Do you want to be more community focused? Just in terms of what types of initiatives are you going to be going after? You know, that's going to vary, but there are opportunities on both sides, whether it's for-profit or non-profit. I think that's just going to have to be something that you think about how you want to be set up. There's a lot more red tape when it comes to non-profit, a lot more red tape, you know, but lots of great opportunities too.
All right, so the answer is go for profit.
No, I can understand Amy's answer. It is a very personal question, right? It's a business question that you have to ask based upon your goals, right? But I will agree on the nonprofit side, the amount of red tape, the amount of paperwork, the amount of disclosure that you have to go through eternally through owning that business is considerably more than a for-profit. The gentleman I described as doing the veterans program where they're housing veterans, it's an all nonprofit. And so that's the direction he chose to go, but if you were to talk to him, he would tell you that maybe in hindsight, they might not have structured it that way. So I would just say personal, just research.
Just like how difficult you want to make this. Next question.
I have a question regarding what services your business offers. You mentioned the first workshop, the federal registration workshop, but it sounds like that's just the beginning. So what other types of services, and then in the end, about how much is all of this going to cost to get through on average to that first either contract or grant? And do you all also offer grant writing and helping complete the grant application?
So you're asking about the scope of her services?
And the cost.
And the cost, okay. She'll take as much money as you want to spend, right?
So that first workshop is probably 50% of what you're going to need, believe it or not, because it's truly the foundational, but it is by the time we deliver your actual certification or your federal registration to you, you're going to have everything that you need in order to get started. There's some follow-up stuff that we recommend, some homework, right? We also have partners. There's an organization that we work with. It's a trade organization called Government Contractors Association, or GCA. They're located here in Metro Atlanta. We partner with them, and all they do is all things government contracts, from federal, state, local, you name it. They've been around longer than I have, 9 years, but we partnered together so that they can pick up where I left off. So I kind of take you about 50% of the way in terms of understanding and readiness. And really by the time you finish that first workshop, if you do everything that we've asked you to do in terms of what we did in the workshop and the follow-up stuff, if you really diligently did it, you'll be halfway there. But there are some other understanding, some other things that you're going to want to know, like the pricing and, you know, just some other terminology. Also, the proposal writing piece. Our partner, GCA, they handle all of that, and they're a membership trade organization. So it's very affordable. I don't know, if you want to email me, or I can give you my card, you can call me later. I'll be more than happy to give you that information so you have a better understanding of the investment for that second part. But it's really very affordable for someone looking to grow their business.
So is there a hybrid past the registration program where there's like, I think they're asking like maybe coaching scenario? Is that something that you all, consultation or coaching throughout the growth of their business?
Yeah, so we do coaching also. You know, my background is in strategic sales, corporate development. I worked with high-end organizations, and I created these, back when I was in corporate America, these strategic partnerships, literally like in the millions. And so that is where, you know, when you talk about leveling up and growth strategies, I really help my clients with how they can position themselves from a sales strategy standpoint. Most small businesses, they're not, you know, you know what you know. If you're IT, you're IT. If you're a landscaper, you're a landscaper. But you don't have a sales expertise to market your business, to make those contacts so that you can really position yourself properly, especially depending on what marketplace you want to play in, especially the corporate marketplace. There's corporate structure, there's etiquette, there's all kind. How do you navigate the corporate structure? So we do. We have we offer consultations for all of that.
You know, and again, you know, there's a lot of, you know, I'm listening to this too, because I'm like, I don't know about government contracts. Like, how do you do that? I mean, we help people when they get the money, make the profit on it, right? But for me, it's very easy to get lost in all the details. I mean, you've been such a wealth of knowledge. By the way, Queen was not able to come. She had a death in the family, immediate family, and so just remember her. You know, when you're praying, whatever, she really wanted to be here and wasn't able to come. But listen, it comes down to what is one thing. Who knows that book, One Thing? That is, listen, you need to get that book, okay? Why? You got 4 months left in the year. You probably didn't hit all the objectives you wanted to, maybe, whether it's for your marriage, whether it's for your business, whether it's for parenting, whether it's for fitness, anything like that. You need to get that book. It's going to give you laser light focus. You can get it on audio book. You can get the actual book, whatever. Look, you're in Atlanta traffic. I call it Interstate University. Just get the audio book. But it's going to give you a lot of focus. What is the one thing that if you really wanted to step into this, that you would do? It would be to go to the workshop. Everyone can do that. Everyone can do that. Okay? And so that's just, it makes it very simple. But we do have a special man here today, and his name is Kenneth. And come on up, Kenneth. Come on. Get off that chair. So last year was his birthday. Tomorrow is his birthday. And we all love Kenneth. What's your nickname? Teddy Bear? What's your name? So hey, let me loosen things up. Everyone stand up. Let's sing him happy birthday, even if you don't like him or not. Okay. So we're gonna hear Kenneth. Okay, that's how we're gonna do this. Ready? All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Teddy Bear. Happy birthday to you. Make a wish. Woo! Awesome, awesome. All right, brother, we love you, man. Okay. So I'm going to ask Bo to come up and Charlie to come up. There are sponsors. As you get seated, we're going to have some more questions answered in a minute. Formulate your questions. Thank you for writing it down. That's awesome. You know, we really appreciate our sponsors. What we want to do for you as real estate investors is, you know, we kind of looked at, you know, Kenneth and me and Amy. We looked over all the things that you can go to as a real estate investor in Atlanta, and what we didn't want to do is for you to feel like you're getting pitched all day long. We wanted to make an event where you're getting educated, where you're getting resourced, and that's why we are here at Level Up. That is what we're dedicated to do. And so we do have sponsors that we vet, that we like, that we think that would complement what you're trying to do, and we just want to introduce those to you and just say thanks to our sponsors.
Thank you, David. Bo Elkins with Country Financial Insurance. We've been doing this for, ever since day one, pretty much. Unfortunately, my coworker, Io, his little girl was not feeling well last night, so he was not able to make it today. But we've been around for over 90 years. For you guys, we're great for doing builder's risk policies. You know, we can insure you for the length of the project. You get a refund for any unused premium. But we also like David just said, it's important to me for the people to know what type of insurance they have, what coverages they have. So I tell everybody, even if you go with a different company, you have questions and you can't get someone on the phone, call me. We can sit there and go through your policy together so you better understand it. I don't want someone being like me before I got into the insurance industry and I just knew I had insurance and that was about it. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Bo. And before Charlie comes up, you know, the first thing I do, we do at Dry Plan when we meet with people and, you know, we're trying to feel each other out and say, you know, is this going to be a good fit? I have to tell people, they're like, why are you asking me about my home and auto? Okay? Because we make 3 promises. Keep more, make more, live more. Keep more means you got to keep what you got. And that always starts with asset protection. And what he was just saying, what Bo was just saying, it's so important, folks. You got to understand your insurance and what it does, what it covers, and all that stuff. So you will go through maybe a fine-tooth comb on the details of a rehab and how many faucets you need and everything else. If you don't understand what's protecting you, you've got to get an understanding. And Bo, I'm sure would be more than happy to look at what you have and make sure you've got the kind of protection that you need. So I tell my clients, I'm not interested in saving you money. If I can save you money, that's great. I want to make sure you have the kind of protection you need. And a lot of times, it's all kind of wonky, the kind of people's protection, and they're off, and they have no understanding of it. So it's really important that you have the right kind of protection. Charlie, you got 2 minutes.
What a great lead-in for me. So first of all, I'm Charlie Fowler. I'm an investor for 20 years, but they also call me the godfather of the investor program from Legal Shield. So that's a program we're partnered with Level Up, and you actually, if you do want to use this program and you don't have it already, you'll be getting it through Level Up. So if everyone would just locate this piece of paper, I just want to make mention that we'll tie it back into Amy's awesome presentation today. So everybody get this piece of paper out. And if you don't have one, raise your hand right now, and Nicole's going to give you one. Okay, anybody else? Just one person. Okay. So who in here, somebody in the back too, Nicole. Okay, so who in here has the Legal Shield Investor Program and is using it? And I know a bunch of you have it. Notice 1, 2, 3 of the people in the front of the room have it, including me. There's Nicole. Okay, who in here is also in the referral program and can take an order and help you get connected? Okay, so there are a number of people that can get it. This sheet has inside, it has the link for Level Up, levelup.wearelegalshield.com. Now on the outside, I want to point out these questions. The first question, if you'll read along with me, it says, do you want to get your business set up the right way? The second question says, do you want to get all your documents reviewed by your attorney before you sign? The third question is, do you want to make better decisions and make more money when you invest? The fourth one is, do you want to save money on closings and contracts, wills, letters, traffic tickets, everything? And the last thing is, do you want to get help with legal problems, personal or business? Okay, the rest of this is just explaining how we help you. Now, we have over 1,000 investors using this program. We custom built it and got Legal Shield's permission to offer it to you at a really special discount. Normally they don't discount, but because you're attending Level Up, you get a discount. And I want to finally just draw your attention to the last thing on here. It says launch. We've just talked about how critically important it is to get your LLC set up. We have a special program from that. Our law firm, which is over 200 people at the law firm, right over on Claremont Road in a skyscraper, will assign a team of business attorneys to prepare your LLC, your operating agreement, your articles of organization, go get your EIN number, go register your name, and file everything with the state of Georgia or any state where you want to do business. It's a flat fee of $145. It's not, they normally charge a minimum of $750 to do it. Anybody ever paid over $1,000 to have a lawyer set up an LLC? I can tell you a lot of people have. There's one sitting in front of the room. Okay, so this is $145, and here's the closing thing. It includes 3 months of the Legal Shield Investor Plan. So if you back that out, these lawyers are charging you $40 to set up your LLC. So if you need 4 or 5 LLCs, you're going to save a ton of money and have real lawyers doing it, not you doing it yourself. So launch is a critically important tool for you in conjunction with what we just heard. And you notice everybody in the front is nodding. Okay, that's called a clue. So my name is Charlie Fowler, my number's on the sheet. You should all be looking at launch. If you don't have the investor bundle, check that out. If you need help, all these people in the room that raise their hand can tell you why they bought it and how they use it. So thank you.
Absolutely. And you want to tell, you've already talked a little bit about anything that you or Kenneth want to say about, because y'all are already sponsors.
Actually, I want to say one more thing for you.
Sure, okay.
And that is, this is also part of Drive Planning strategy when they do financial planning. So if you are not a Drive Planning financial client, first of all, you should consider doing that. They are ace. They're different from everybody else. And secondly, you can also get your Legal Shield program and launch through them if you are a dry planning client.
Okay, I'm just going to do a shameless plug very briefly for what I do at dry planning. Most of my clients are real estate investors. We've all heard today, look, if you're going to get ahead, you've got to get a coach. You can do it yourself, learn all the mistakes, shoot yourself in the foot, and then come back around and get a coach afterwards. People who are successful are willing to spend money to get a good coach, okay? And so what we do, our first priority, is what Warren Buffett says you should be focused on all the time. What is the number one rule for wealth building? What does he say? Don't lose money. And folks, I know most of y'all have read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? That's probably what brought me into real estate investing in the first place. And what does he say? It ain't how much you make, it's how much you keep. And so our first priority is that the money and the assets and the wealth that you have built, that we are going to make it bulletproof so that you're not going to lose to inflation. You're not going to lose to market fluctuation. Todd talked about the market and the changes. What if you were bulletproof to these things so that when you go into any situation, you know that the money that you have, the money that you've saved, retirement, whatever it might be, a rental portfolio, it doesn't matter. And that's what we help you do. We don't take your money and manage it for you and say you get a better rate of return with us because we're going to put it in the stock market. That is not what we do. Most of what we're doing right now for our clients is outside of the stock market because they're real estate investors. So we'd love the opportunity to sit down with you, get on a 12-minute phone call. If you would like to do that with me personally, go see Mike in the back. Raise your hand, Mike. And he'll make sure he gets your name and information. I will follow up with you later afterwards. So, any other questions that we have going back into the government contracts, real estate investing? Yes, Ron, the ever so talented. Oh, he didn't have any. Loss of words, Ron. It's the first time ever. Any other questions? Yeah, Sam. And thanks for winning the bracelet. You got to get a bracelet. You got to get a bracelet. Level up bracelet.
All right. My question was: we keep talking about bidding, but how, as a real estate investor, what is something that I can bid on that I can use in my business, right? Because we talked about a couple different businesses and contract, but I wasn't really understanding what that guy got $300,000 to do what with it. And do they tell you what to do with it, or do you win the bid and then you decide what to do with it? And then how do you bid? Are you putting money down? Do you not get that money back? Or are you points? Or I don't think we talked about that. Amy's shaking her head, so.
Yeah. All right, which Amy we going to see?
So let me just, when I say bidding, I mean bidding, someone is looking for work to be done with the federal government. They need something, so let's just use paper clips. They need paper clips. They need 10 million paper clips. And they put the request for proposal out there's a database. They put it out there. We're looking for 10 million paper clips. So when you go through our workshop, we show you how to actually get you set up in this bidding system so that if you offer paper clips, you'll be notified right away as soon as they post that request for paper clips. You bid on the paper clips and then you get paid for your paper clips. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I'll clarify how you think.
Yeah.
Okay, so they want paper clips. We'll use the same example. And so your bid is that your.
Can we use relevant?
Okay, well, example you were giving earlier. The exact example you were giving earlier. I'm gonna start with the electrical contractor because let's segue into it. So the electrical contractor, there was a need for electrical work to be done, a large amount, a $300,000 job, right? Okay, so they put out the request for proposal, which is a description of the work they need done. And no different than you in a house would have 5 GCs come in, and basically that's what you're doing. You're replying back with your scope of work and what it would cost you, what you're going to charge them to do what they described. That's it. So that guy happened to reply back with a $300,000 bid. Yes, I'll do that scope of work that you just handed me and your request for proposal for $300,000. And then they're paying him $300,000 to do the job. And this doesn't mean they're just giving him $300,000. They're hiring him to do the job, and he said he could do it for $300,000. Now, one of the things she cautioned about was that, well, let's say you underbid yourself and it's gonna cost you $325,000 in labor and materials to do the job that you bid at 300, well, you're in a world of hurt and you better go find the 25,000 and do the job anyway, or you're not gonna get another bid like that approved, okay? So you wanna be really careful, make sure that your bid makes sense. Now in a real estate space, same thing. If somebody, I'll take my veterans guy for example, if they said we have 10 blighted houses that our request for proposals for somebody to come in and buy and fix these 10 blighted houses, you're going to give a bid of what you would be willing to do all the work on those houses for. It's the same thing, right? So no matter what it is, whether it's syringes or paper clips or houses or electrical, does that make sense?
Yeah,
You're just answering back. So the guy I told you about that sits there all day and answers bids for my syringe friend, that's what he's doing all day. Every time they say we need surgical masks, he says, great, we have those for this amount, right? And that's what he does all day, and every time he wins one, he goes, great, I won one, and then, you know, he moves forward. I mean, it's pretty cool. And I don't know, she's the expert, I just know from the utilitarian
from that,
side.
the way you described it,
Yes.
from the scope of work and the bidding, that makes more sense to me.
Right, so that
Okay.
I figured, because that's the space you guys are in, you know, as a coach, my job is to take the forest and hand you a toothpick. That's why I tell people when they hire me as a coach, I said, I take the whole forest and give you one toothpick. So, but that's to break this whole system down into the simplest form, that's literally what it is. And so if you can find a niche of anything, and go find the fact that there's people out there needing that done in the federal space, and you can supply it, whatever it is. My friend doing the syringe thing, the medical supply stuff, okay, he's a restaurant entrepreneur and owns gaming machines and pool tables and like nothing in the medical space, nothing. But he understands business and he understood how to be an intermediary and make that work.
Perfect. Thank you for that. When you were saying bidding, where do I get my money back? I'm thinking, oh boy. Yeah, does it make sense to you?
No, it makes sense now.
Well, you were thinking about auctions and things like
Yes.
That's what I was. I mean, you got auctions.com up there, and then with the bidding
yeah,
stuff,
that's different.
I was
Okay,
kind of
yeah.
confused.
Totally different.
No, we're good.
All right, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question, maybe I didn't understand something. So you said that basically you need to have a capability statement, and I don't know what that was, but then you said that you didn't have to be in business for any particular length of time. So I was wondering, how would you have a cap or business resume if you haven't been in business for a long time? How would you get around that?
Probably just have to fill it up with lies, right?
Well, I mean, you have some, depending on what you're doing in your own background, you can pull from your own expertise to go on that capability statement until you can build your past performance for the entity that you created. So it's a working document, right? So just like a person's resume, you continue to tweak it, and if you get a new job, you add your new job to it, and so it's like that. But when you first start out, if you're a brand new business, you should have a capability statement, and you're pulling from all of your past experiences, which landed you where you are, which is the business that you're in.
All right, so we have a gentleman here. He's going to show you his cap statement, okay? Thank you so much. You can introduce yourself if you'd like.
Sure. My name is Jamar Bates, and I did go through a lot of, pretty much the entire process. Capability statement, operating agreement. I'm a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. I self-certified with GS7DC, minority business, the whole nine. So if anyone wants to see any of the documents, I have everything inside of a Dropbox. I can show it to you real quick. If you wanted the folder, give me a card. I'd redact out my personal information, shoot it over to you, possibly. I want to double check with and make sure I'm not stepping on her toes for her workshop. But yeah, I'm happy to share. We'll show it.
Any other questions? Yes, sir, in the back. Sandy.
Hey, I kind of have a two-part question. I wrote it down. Is there a website where we could go to see if there might be a fit for our particular business that we're doing? And are there specific grants or funding opportunities for opportunity zones, areas like that?
So it sounds like he wants to kind of look at what's the range of opportunities and say, hey, here's an itch or two that I can start working on, then I'm going to sign up for a workshop, something like that. I think is what he's asking. Is that fair? Is that what you're asking?
That and opportunities.
Opportunities, yeah.
So you can go on usaspending.gov and you can see what types of things the government spends money on. That'll give you a really good idea. And as far as the opportunity zones are concerned, again, it really depends on what exactly you're trying to do in that opportunity zone. If, are there a bunch of blighted houses? What initiative are you going after? Are you partnering with the Veterans Administration? Are you partnering with HUD? Are you partnering with the, federal prison system? It's tons of agencies out there, so you can do a little research to kind of determine what is available in terms of opportunities in opportunity zones. But it really depends on the area.
Okay, well, let's give the panelists a big hand, everybody. So, action step. I'm going to let Amy tell you one more time the website to go to and how to find the information so you can sign up for this workshop. And I'm going to be going out of town for a few weeks, but I think what I'd like to do, if you're willing to, is I can meet with you in Queen and we could do a Facebook Live. We could hash some of this out some more. Would y'all like that? Yeah. We did that with the Airbnb thing. We got a great response. I'd be more than happy to do that. But give everyone just website. You said go to this place, click here. I think you said $700-800 depending on your sex or what you're trying to do. So
it's arcanswers.com. It's a website, and if you go on the home page, if you scroll down, you'll see upcoming events, and you'll see Federal Registration Certification Workshop. You can also, there's an event tab that you can click on, and you'll see it there also. And of course, all of our social media is ARC Business Solutions, all social media.
Very good. Make sure you connect on Facebook and everything else like that. Make sure you pat Kenneth on the back and say, happy birthday, Teddy Bear. Okay, so Amy's going to kind of close this out.
All right, well, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Amy and Kenneth. So the whole point for Level Up, those of you who are just coming your first time or have been coming all along all year, the whole point of Level Up was to put people together in a room where you would have the opportunity to level up, to be as cliche as possible using our own name, right? The whole point of your network is to increase your net worth. We hear that all the time too. The point is that that's true, and you only want to spend time around those people who are going to help you rise, help you level up, and increase your net worth in whatever category you want to put that in, whether it's familial or money, wealth, etc. Right? But the problem is we all go to networking events and we forget the power of networking. Okay. So one of the things I want to point out to you when you ever go to an event like this is you want to, with intention, seek out the people who have something that you can provide a win-win with each other. That you have something you can provide them, and they have something they can provide you, and then you leave here with a win. Right? So let's do a little exercise together. Everybody okay with that? Yeah. All right. So we're going to do a couple things. You're going to raise your hands for me. Everybody okay with that? All right. So how many of you in here have deals, properties right now ready for you to sell? You have deals to sell. Raise your hands. Everybody look around. James, everybody see everybody has deals to sell? Okay. How many of you have a need to buy property right now? You must buy property. Everybody look around. You must buy, okay? Those of you who have deals, are you noticing who has to buy? All right. How many of you have money to lend? You have money to lend. You want to give money to people and say, hey, give me a return. That earns some of your tax money, okay? How many of you need to borrow money right now? It's usually a lot more hands. All right, cool. All right, so my point being is that I hope you didn't just look at me, you looked around at the room, and before you leave, go connect with somebody who raised their hand that has something you can provide them and they can provide you. Is that a deal? Yeah? Okay, that's what we mean about level up. Oh gosh, I have to do it. Thank you. Carmen will be so upset. One of our sponsors who doesn't really send a human here is Think Realty. How many of you are familiar with Think Realty? You're not. Okay, exactly my point. All right, so I love Think Realty, but none of us really realize what a resource they are. If you have not looked them up and you don't follow them on social media, please start doing so. Think Realty is a national company. They do provide expos and a magazine. The owner of Think Realty also owns Housing Wire magazine, if you're familiar with Housing Wire at all. They are very on top of all of the industry strategies, all of the industry must know when it comes to data, when it comes to anything and everything from a content perspective, is the Think Realty organization. And unlike every other realtor organization out there, they are the perfect hybrid of investor and agents, which is something I'm very passionate about. So I want you to go seek them out. On September 21st and 22nd, they're going to have a 2-day expo here in Atlanta. The ticket price is really, really cheap, and if you use the level up, use the word level up as a discount code, you can come in even cheaper. I'm the MC for the event this year. It's the national event for them. But there'll be 2 days of rock star content. If you don't know who Gary Harper is, look him up. He'll be there speaking. He's just one of a slew of panelists that will be there all day. So there'll be an expo. Amazing networking opportunities. Saturday's an expo all day. Saturday and Sunday both have breakout sessions that you're going to want to sit in. If you want to benefit your business, it's 2 rock star days for a very inexpensive price. So check them out. Join Think Realty, please. Come to the expo September 21st and 22nd. I'll be there. I'll say hey.
And so again, Walil, if you don't mind standing up, Walil, he is our photographer and videographer. So if you could take a moment, if he approaches you afterwards, just for a quick comment or a picture, we'd really appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. By the way, when I went to Think Realty last year, all of the big players that are in real estate investing in Atlanta, I saw all of the big players there. Okay, so if you want to be where the big players are, then that's where you need to show up for. Okay, be there. Find a way to be there. That's what is it? The 21st and 22nd. 21st and 22nd.
Saturday all day, and then Sunday most of the day are breakout sessions. You're going to want to sit in and listen. And a lot of them are local panels. Like we put together a local market panel, a local lending panel. Like these are things that are talking about now, short-term rentals and how the short-term rental market is being affected in Atlanta. Atlanta's demographic development, like what's really happening in Atlanta. What does the economic development look like? What's business development look like in Atlanta? We have panels put together to talk about those topics very openly. So you're going to want to be there. Like I said, the owner of Think Realty is a data freak. Okay, so if you want to be around people who really understand what's happening in the market, that's the Think Realty folks.
Folks, we'll see you next month as we bring in Think Realty. They're going to be talking about all kind of resources that are available to you. Thanks for coming. See you next month, first Wednesday of the month.